What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today's video is about 9 mistakes that almost killed my clothing brand. And you're going to want to stick around for this entire video and pay close attention, maybe even take notes to make sure that you do not make the same mistakes that I did. If you're wondering who I am or if you're new here, my name is Chris Drago. I've been running a brand called Pathos of Things since 2020. I am the founder and creative director and lead designer for the brand. I do pretty much everything by myself. It's a lot of trial and error, and I've fallen on my face and gotten up several times. I built my brand from zero, completely from scratch. It's my passion, and I absolutely love it, despite the high highs and low lows. Today, I'm reversing my usual what to do style content into a what not to do style video. I'm going to try and make this specific to my experience. And I'm going to show you a bunch of templates and tools that I use to help run my brand. If you want access to those tools or if you want to connect with me, join the free Skool community brand OS or brand operating system. I run this group and there are almost 500 awesome creative directors, fashion designers, and brand owners in here. So come join the party. It's completely free. There are 9 mini online courses in there. And without further ado, let's jump into the video. The first mistake that I made when I launched my brand in 2020 was I skipped many of the brand foundations, or what I consider to be the brand foundations. I had a name and an aesthetic for the brand, but no clear mission and no clear competitor map, which in general just made my process very random. I spent months overbuilding and over designing products that people didn't end up wanting and didn't sell. And I lacked a North Star to point me in the right direction. I basically was just doing random stuff, throwing paint at the wall, seeing what would stick. I don't come from a traditional fashion background. I have no fashion design experience from school. It's all been through trial and error. But in retrospect, if I had a clear plan, I would have saved a lot of time, money, heartache. In order to fix this, I took 3 major steps. First, I built out my brand identity. So my brand identity includes the mission, vision, and values. To help put together my mission, I answered these 3 questions. 1, what change am I trying to create? I want to create a brand for creative polymaths, people that don't take the traditional path, and build a culture for them to eliminate the stigma that you need to go to school and pick a career path early on and then stick to that your entire life. Which ties into the second question, who are you here to serve, or who am I here to serve? If you can identify who you are helping or serving by releasing your products or garments, you'll have a much better idea of your target audience. And then you can dive really deep into demographic research, where your people live, what they like to do, how they spend their money, how they spend their free time, etc. If you could figure out all those things, you're going to have a much better idea of what these people actually want to buy. And then you can just present them with whatever it is that the market is calling for. For example, over the years, I've learned that my customer values a very clean silhouette that they can wear in multiple settings, whether that's at work or going to the club or going on a date, going out on the weekends, lounging around the house. I try to make clothes that fit into that sweet spot where these types of creative people can wear my garments that I design anywhere they go. And then the third question in the mission exercise, what do you make that no one else does? So this is really hard for a lot of people to answer. The majority of brands that I talk to are in the early development stages, and they are printing on blanks and using mock-up packs. That's difficult because everyone is doing that now. Everyone has the ability to buy or crack Adobe Illustrator and get a mock-up pack and then say they're a fashion designer. The next step in establishing a brand identity is doing a vision exercise. What does the world look like when your brand succeeds? And what long-term cultural or emotional shifts do you want to help shape? If you can answer these questions, your brand will become more than just an aesthetic or a style or a vibe, and you'll connect with your customer on a much deeper level. Because when people wear your clothes, it will signal to others what they represent. in terms of culture and style. Next is a values exercise. So I like to pick 3 to 5 values that matter the most to me, like craft, honesty, transparency, wit, elegance, but with a gritty and edgy sensibility. You can do these exercises yourself in my Notion system, all about brand foundations. I also made a full video on YouTube about this, breaking down my Notion system that I use to put together my brand's mission, vision, etc. The second major mistake that I made, and I'm sure the majority of small clothing businesses also make, is ignoring brand armor. No LLC, no bank account, no trademark. This is going to lead to a ton of headaches and nightmare scenarios. I've seen brands get hit with cease and desist letters. I've seen lawsuits. The really interesting thing about this is that it's actually pretty easy to avoid, especially if you live in the United States. I know not all of my viewers live in the United States, but the majority of them are in the US. If you live in the US, just pick a bank. I picked Chase. I formed an LLC using LegalZoom. Then I set up an appointment with someone at the bank. I brought all of my LLC formation documents, and I opened a business bank account, which made taxes a breeze. And then also I was able to get a business line of credit. So Chase Bank gave me a business credit card, and I used that for my paid ads and for placing bulk inventory orders, samples, etc. And then you can also file provisional trademarks through LegalZoom as well. So check out LegalZoom. It's really simple, and you can get all of this set up in a weekend. If you want way more info about brand formation, IP protection, legal formation, LLCs, corporations, sole proprietorships, how to incorporate your fashion brand, setting up a business bank account, all that good stuff, check out the brand formation and IP protection, or brand armor, section in the classroom of the Skool group. I try to break everything down in a really simple and easy to read format, step by step. So if you just follow each step, by the end, you should have an LLC and a bank account set up for your brand. All right, moving on to mistake number 3, not having a design system. This, in my opinion, is one of the most egregious of these mistakes. What do I mean by a design system? Basically, a design system is like a rule book that determines your fonts, logos, colors, and more. If your logos, fonts, and colors are all over the place, brand will look extremely amateur. You will look less than amateur. You're going to have confused customers on social media, which will dilute your brand, even subconsciously for the customer. If they have an idea of what your brand is in the back of their head, and then they see more content from you with different logos and fonts and colors, they might not even put 2 and 2 together that it's the same brand. If you're running paid ads, then you're just wasting your money, because let's say you run ads to a piece of content that has one aesthetic with its own color palette and logos, and then you run an ad with different colors and logos. You might as well be running 2 brands. And if you're running ads for 2 brands, you're going to need twice the money. I want you to pull up the branding, style, and positioning section of the Skool and go through these videos. In addition, I have a brand style guide template that you can download and edit for yourself completely for free, I promise. It's also in the Skool community. You can create a deck that's based on my deck that I use professionally to put together your logos, typography, colors, and fonts, and more. Having a consistent design system is the number one thing that's going to make your brand look professional. If you can have consistent logos, colors, and fonts across all of your touch points, social media, your website, even down to your packaging, the brand's going to look good. Even if you're a small brand, even if you aren't making that many sales, you're still going to stand out and cut through the noise. Mistake number 4 was having a poor garment design process. So, like most brands when they're starting, I used generic mock-up packs. I did 0 3D prototyping. And I did 0 actual cutting and sewing of garments. I was just picking a blank from my manufacturer, slapping my logo on a mock-up in Adobe Illustrator, and then running with that. I feel like this worked for brands in like 2020, 2021. Those days are over. That space became so saturated. Everybody went on Alibaba and started printing puff print hoodies in 2021, trying to hop on that wave. But I think the customer is just no longer that naive. They've seen it a million times. They don't want another puff print Y2K inspired hoodie on a 250 GSM Terry fleece. Like, it's just not that cool anymore. I also ran into sample grading errors where I was letting the manufacturer kind of just wing it with my garments, where I'd say, this is what I want the t-shirt or hoodie to look like. This is going to be a size medium. I need you to grade the pattern. So I also have a large and an extra large and a small and an extra small. Chances are the grading is not going to be consistent. Your medium is not going to be consistent with a large, and so on. So the way that I got around this and fixed this is I started using a software called Clo 3D. So Clo 3D, or just Clo, allows me to design garments based on the dimensions of a real person. And then I can grade the patterns with math. So the grading is extremely consistent every time. Now what I do to save time and make sure that everything is just as professional as possible is I outsource this 3D design process to a Clo 3D professional. Her name is Osgore. She is in the Skool community as well. So be sure to join the Skool community and connect with Osgore. I create a design file listing all of the aspects and components of a garment that I want to design, from the cut of the fabric to the fabric material to the stitching in minute details. All of that is laid out in my document that I then give to Osgore, and then she will design the actual garment in Clo 3D. The model in Clo 3D is based on the dimensions of a real person, specifically the model that I shoot the lookbook photos of. As long as everything is accurate within the software, I know it's going to fit the model. And then that way I don't have to get the model tailored, or I don't have to tailor the clothes around the dimensions of the model specifically. Once I integrated Clo 3D into my fashion design workflow, the quality of my garments increased 100x. I'd say this is probably the most high leverage aspect of my business right now that's putting my brand in the arena with premium and luxury brands. Even though I'm not really there yet, right? Like, I'm working on it. I'm not a luxury brand by any means. I'm on my way because I'm taking the garment design process extremely serious. And I'm showing people that this isn't just like a cash grab. If anything, it actually costs me more time and energy over the long run to really upgrade this design experience. But I think it's going to be really worth it. It's already worth it. Mistake number 5 that I made was choosing the wrong manufacturer. So I actually tested 12 different manufacturers. 10 of them are based in China, one of them is based in the US, and one of them is based in Pakistan. The manufacturer in Pakistan straight up scammed me. Took my money. I reported them to Alibaba. We'll see what happens. But that was a pain in the ass and really sucked. It really sucks losing $500, right? Cost me about $500 to get samples made with a Pakistani manufacturer, and they just took my money and disappeared. I will make a whole separate video about the US manufacturer later. This video is not about that. But 9 out of the 10 Chinese manufacturers were ass. One of them I still work with, and I actually connect many members of the Skool community with this one specific Chinese manufacturer. The point of contact that I have is, his name is Duke, and he's amazing. I've been developing a relationship with Duke over the last 4 years. So he started out as a lower level employee at this factory in China, and now he's growing and I'm growing, and we've kind of been growing together, which is amazing. But for all of those other manufacturers, I spent a ton of money on samples and received mostly garbage. I'd say most of the Alibaba manufacturers are ass. They're just complete ass. Communication is extremely poor. Product quality is extremely poor. Working conditions are extremely poor for workers. So there's no easy way around this, right? For me, I just had to do the trial and error. I went through a lot of bullshit, but then I found one that I really like. So for you watching this, what I recommend, if you are interested in working with an overseas manufacturer or a Chinese manufacturer specifically, let me save you hundreds of hours and headache. join the Skool, send me a DM. I'll put you in touch with my manufacturer. I have no monetary incentive. They don't offer me really a commission or anything. So it's just to further establish a relationship with you. So yeah, let me help you. This manufacturer has a 50-piece minimum order quantity that I was able to negotiate over the years of working with them. And this is offered to people in my Skool group as well. But what I'm seeing on the internet, just from my research, checking out other brands and other YouTubers that make clothing brand style content, I see one of two things happen to most brand owners. They either skip the sampling process almost completely, right? Where they just have a design or a mock-up and they're like, oh yeah, this is it. This is what I'm selling. And they put a mock-up, like a Photoshop mock-up up on their website. They don't even take real photos of the garments and they basically skip the sampling process. This is a huge mistake. On the other hand, I see people will order a sample and then it's like mediocre or okay quality and then they just pull the trigger on placing a bulk order, which usually will lead to a small business getting stuck with 200 flawed hoodies or flawed jackets that cannot be sold and cannot be reworked. If you follow step 4, or rather don't make mistake 4, which was all about the garment design process, right, and using Clo 3D, if you follow a strict design process and your garment design is really solid and you have a great tech pack, which the Clo 3D Professional helps me make, by the way. I'm not in there making tech packs myself anymore. If you follow that process and everything is clean, you can then give the pattern files and tech pack to Duke or a reliable manufacturer, and they will give you a good MOQ and you can feel confident placing a bulk order. I find the more details I give about my garment design, the better the communication is between me and the manufacturer, the faster I get my garment, and just overall the quality is higher. You don't want to leave too much of the process in the hands of the manufacturer because they're just going to do whatever is economical for them. They're not thinking about your brand. They're not thinking about your customer. They're not thinking about your mission or the integrity behind the brand. They're going to do whatever is going to make them the most money or cost them the least amount of money. The more control you give them, the lower quality your product is going to be, in my opinion. Mistake number 6 is having no operations and fulfillment system. I'm not saying that you need to outsource to a warehouse company right away. That's what I do. I work with a 3PL company called Pietra. I ship all of my products directly from my manufacturer to the Pietra warehouse, and then it syncs up with my Shopify. So that way, anytime someone places an order on my Shopify site, it gets sent to the Pietra team. They will then pack and ship my order for me, and the customer has their order within 4 to 6 days. It's perfect. But before that, I was manually packing and shipping orders, and I needed to set up a little system for myself in order to streamline this process. There will be dozens of late shipments, which lead to chargebacks. People will ask for their money back. They'll leave bad reviews. They'll post shit about you online. And you just don't need any of that. So what I did is I created a little shipping station in my apartment, and I had bins with all of my inventory. So anytime someone placed an order, I then printed the shipping label manually, took the garment out of the bin, packed it, and then took it to the post office manually myself, which is fine. This is actually what I recommend for a lot of small brands when they're starting. If you are selling less than 50 pieces at a time or every month, you really don't need a 3PL service, but you do need some kind of system to streamline the fulfillment process for your customers, whether that's self-fulfillment or 3PL. Do not be one of those brands that takes 2 months to ship an order to a customer. That will absolutely destroy any trust that the customer has in you and your brand, and they will not come back and buy something a second time or a third time, which really is the goal, right? We don't want to only sell to first-time customers. We want to build long-term relationships with these people and increase the lifetime average order value of that customer. Having a really solid fulfillment system, even if it's a simple self-fulfillment system, is going to reduce the amount of chargebacks, increase customer loyalty, and increase that average lifetime order value of each customer. Mistake number 7 is having no creative direction and content plan. Lots of brand owners are not also the creative directors because they don't have that skill set. This leads to random photo shoots and scattered assets. In the past, I've blown my entire budget on photo shoots with no real structure, resulting in unusable e-com and ad assets. So what I did to fix this is I consolidated all of my e-commerce style content, editorial style content, and lifestyle content into one full day creative direction marathon or full day shoot. And I don't do this all completely on my own. I consider myself to be the creative director, but I also work with an art director who's also the producer and casting director who helps me find the photographer and the model and the makeup artist, etc. I put together a small team of about 5 people, and then we spend 6 to 8 hours shooting all of the content for a drop just in one day. It's possible to do multiple locations, but I find that actually gets a little expensive, so I try to get all of the content shot in one place. Typically that is a photo studio. The last lookbook shoot that I did was shot at the 9 studio in Brooklyn, New York. I have a full 30-minute video where I break down my entire website and Instagram content process. I think if you watch this, you'll have a much better idea of what I'm talking about. Link is on the screen right now. Feel free to watch that. Mistake number 8 is having no marketing plan and no paid ads. When I first started, I had no marketing plan and I ran no paid ads. I posted sporadically. My feed looked like a mess. And I spent weeks with zero traffic after ordering some inventory. So that inventory just ended up piling up in my apartment and taking up space, and it was a huge nuisance. So what I did to fix this is I actually built a full marketing funnel that includes Facebook and Instagram prospecting for cold traffic. And then there are also retargeting ad sets that I set up, which drive the bulk of the purchases and do the majority of the heavy lifting for the ads. Retargeting ads are the most effective way to spend your money on marketing, in my opinion. You will get organic traffic if you just post videos or share it with your family and your friends. But having a retargeting funnel or a retargeting ad set up will reintroduce the brand to these people. So that way they don't really forget about you. I think it's not typical for someone to just see an ad on Facebook or Instagram and then buy something. They need to be nurtured over time. It's extremely rare. Someone will just see an ad, click on it, and then purchase. What's more realistic is serving them an ad and saying, hey, this is my brand. Check it out if you want. And then they go, okay, maybe I'll check that out. Maybe I'm not ready to buy yet, but I'll check it out. And they go to the website and they get pixeled by Facebook or TikTok or both. What that means is there's a little piece of code on the website that tracks the data of the user visiting that site, so you can then run them an ad again in the future. You can even get really specific with it where, let's say someone adds something to their cart but they don't purchase. You can then run them a follow-up retargeting ad saying, hey, you left this in your cart. Click here to come back to the cart. That way your brand is at the top of someone's attention. They don't forget about you, and they're more likely to spend money on your brand instead of another brand because you've been building that trust with them and they've seen your brand several times. If you want to learn more about marketing and ads, I also already have a pretty good amount of content about that in the Skool community. And then last but not least, mistake number 9 is ignoring AI in 2025. If you're still doing everything by hand or manually, you need to start learning how to use AI. Otherwise, you will get left in the dust. Using it as a tool, as an assistant to help 10x your output is going to be the difference for a lot of brands in the coming year. I tend to burn out pretty quickly when I'm editing captions, planning shoots, running ads, doing all of that manually without the help of an AI assistant, especially for paid ads. I export CSV files of my data from Meta ads, for example, and I feed it to ChatGPT. Specifically, I've been using the O3 model to analyze my marketing data, and it's helped me cut ad spend, increase sales, and overall, my return on investment or return on ad spend, ROAS, has increased. When it comes to data things like analyzing spreadsheets and running numbers, the AI is your best friend. Anyone these days can become an expert media buyer or Facebook ads guy by running test ads and then analyzing them with an AI. I recommend not getting overwhelmed by all of the different AI tools. I use ChatGPT and Claude all the time. I use ChatGPT more than Claude. I have friends that swear by Google Gemini and they are bullish on Google and they only use Google infrastructure. And that's cool too. Just pick one that resonates with you and stick to that. Hopping around from one AI tool to the other, in my opinion, is a waste of time. They all do very similar things. They're all competing with each other neck to neck. So as ChatGPT puts out a feature, Claude is going to put out the same feature a week or two later. And then if Gemini and Google haven't already released that feature, it's coming up right around the corner. You see what I mean? So don't ignore AI, but also you don't have to go all in on learning every single AI tool either, because I think that's a waste of time and there are diminishing returns there. Okay, so in conclusion, each of these mistakes felt small at first, but compounded, they almost shut down my entire business. But once I put these things together and I developed this actual system with different components, from protecting my brand, putting the foundations together, building a design system, upgrading the quality of the garments, getting a really solid manufacturer and developing a long-term relationship with a manufacturer. Once I put all these things into play, I changed course in around 30 to 60 days. Like 1 to 2 months, you can turn your whole business around just by implementing these systems or this overall system. If you'd like all my checklists and my Figma documents and my whiteboards and my PDFs and my Notion templates, again, please join the Brand OS Skool community. It's completely free. We're throwing a party in there, almost at 500 members. I'd love to see you in there. I'd love to talk with you personally. I DM and discuss concepts with every single member of that community. It's pretty time consuming, but it's worth it for me. I really have been enjoying connecting with all of you and learning about your brands and hearing your brand stories. I want to know which of these mistakes resonate the most with you. I want to know what you're struggling with the most. That helps me create better content in the future so I can better help you over the long term. Drop it in the comments. I want to know. In my next video, I'll likely break down some 3PL and shipping and fulfillment. So subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one.